It is humid.
It is damp.
Oh, boy. Moisture is all outside.
It is heavy.
Thick outside with moisture.
The air is thick. Muggy.
How am I supposed to breathe with this air?
The air is oppressive.
Oh, my gosh. It's awful. Terrible.
Stifling.
Oh! Is anything defense? Defense is stifling.
It is.
Air
I
can be
love some
stifling.
defense.
Is anything else stifling?
Things that are stifling.
I don't think anything else is stifling.
A mother-in-law.
Really?
Sometimes.
I've never heard the phrase "my mother-in-law." She's a real stifling
I love you,
person.
MIL. Do we describe people as stifling?
I don't. That's what I'm saying. I don't think so. What was the song?
The song was "I Get a Kick Out of You," which many have covered. It's by the great Cole Porter, but I had the Patti LuPone version from like 2 revivals ago of a musical called Anything Goes. It's a great song.
Okay.
It made me think, because I've probably been singing it my whole life, and at one point, like one of the bars is, "Some may go for cocaine. I'm sure that if I even took one sniff, it would bore me terrifically too, but I get a kick out of you." And I was just singing that like there was no tomorrow. It's like an 8-year-old.
Well, it's about not doing drugs, isn't it? Like some people do
technically.
cocaine,
Like,
but I don't need
I don't
cocaine.
need alcohol,
I have
I don't
you.
need drugs, and I don't need to fly. Those are your 3 verses. Yeah,
But
no, it's
that
an
third
odd. It's
one
like
is.
he really gave up on the third one. Like flying too high in the sky. Yeah.
Versus getting too high on the coke and
I guess.
too drunk on the booze. Okay.
I guess.
Although
He was a cheeky little lyricist for his time.
Like maybe it was prophetic because like there's dangers in drinking, there's dangers in
there's
cocaine
dangers in the
usage.
sky.
Right now there are. We still can't land those planes. Oh
or
my
take them
goodness.
off, or do anything in between.
They're catching fire randomly.
What's up, everybody? It is Tuesday, April 29th. It is going to be a good day. Jessica Benson with you from the Grind City Media Studios in Memphis, Tennessee. CJ Hurt behind the glass. Coming up on today's show, another thrilling night in the National Basketball Association. Warriors hold on to beat the Rockets. Heat suffered a historic sweep. We will get into all that. The Memphis Grizzlies' first week of the offseason continues, and Mike Wallace will join us in the second segment. We will get his takeaways from exit interviews from the finality of this Grizzly season. We are also 48 hours into the offseason, and we have Ja Morant trade rumors. We have Ja Morant cryptic offseason tweets. We will get into all of that with Mike. We did not have a chance to recap the NFL draft yesterday. Also, the Bill Belichick awkward CBS Sunday morning interview. We'll get into all of that. Some TV Tuesday, what we are watching. It's Tuesday. You know what we say. You got anything?
Oh my goodness. I didn't know I was supposed to come prepared. Just leave
I had
it.
something and I forgot.
Oh, just leave it.
Grizzlies fans know it's the team that gives you the edge. Big River Steel does too. And much like the Grizzlies have recruited legendary talent, we want you to be part of our team. Are you ready to be part of something legendary? Then visit www.bigriversteel.com. That's www.bigriversteel.com.
Bain drives.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Close. He hits and the Grizzlies have the lead.
Yeah!
Jaron with a knockaway.
Good defense.
Morant attacking, spinning, hanging, and hitting.
Let's go, go! Let's go!
Double your chances to win all month long in March with 2 big promotions. On Fridays, embrace the madness and win a share of $150,000 in cash and free play. On Saturdays, starting March 8th, go for the gold and win your share of up to $10,000 in cash and free play in the 80K Fool's Gold giveaway. Enjoy live entertainment all month long and play for your chance to win big in March only at Southland Casino Hotel. Must be 21 or up. Play responsibly. For help quitting, call 800-522-4700.
The new issue of Slam, the cover dropped, and it is our friend Jaren Jackson Jr. on the cover.
And shout out to you, Lane.
Yeah.
You kept.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we knew about it, but
Yeah.
you kept this a secret the whole time. So shout out to you. For
I wrote
putting
this story.
together.
We did the photo shoot a couple weeks ago here on a Sunday afternoon in the practice court. The Sneak Fest show, live Tuesdays at 2 p.m. on Grind City Media on X, YouTube, and the official Grind City Media mobile app.
I see people who look like me and were born probably in the same decade as me, watching all of these young people jump into the transfer portal and saying, it's ridiculous. You got to stop thinking about this like it's a normal college experience. It is not. You know what the priority is? Maximize your earning potential for every year of eligibility you have left. That's what this is about now. These are jobs.
The Gary Parrish Show, live on weekdays at 10 a.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
Grizz Nation gets set for tip-off 1 hour before every Grizzlies home game with the warm-up show. Get the latest news, notes, and analysis live from courtside at FedEx Forum.
Who's going to be the tougher team that rebounds and prevents second chance opportunities?
Join me, Lang Whitaker, along with Michael Wallace, Jessica Benson, and other personalities from Grind City Media, Memphis, and around the NBA. 1 hour before every home game, live at Grind City Media on X, YouTube, and the official Grind City Media mobile app.
Feels great to feel the sunshine. Gotta own the day like it's all mine. Just got paid in his own time. Been working hard, I've been on the grind. I deserve this feeling, having my way. I've been on this healing. This is my day. The sun's out, let's have a little fun now. I wanna let it all out. That's what's it all about. Cause I deserve this feeling, having my way. I deserve this healing. This is my day.
Grind City Media presents The Jessica Benson Show with CJ Hurt. Live from the Grind City Media studios on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday, a hot and muggy Tuesday here in Memphis, Tennessee. Lots to get into on today's show. Mike Wallace is going to join us in the second segment to talk all things Grizzlies. But we start with last night's NBA playoff action because at least the Grizzlies did not suffer the most embarrassing exit of the postseason. And CJ, nobody had a worse night than the Miami Heat, and nobody had a better night, perhaps, than Jimmy Butler. And those two things go hand in hand because first we watched the Miami Heat suffer a 55-point loss in Game 4, and I was counting each and every one of those points to see if they were going to exceed the 51 points that the Memphis Grizzlies lost by in Game 1. They did. What I saw from the Memphis Grizzlies in the games that followed was fight. What I saw from the Miami Heat over the last two games specifically was nothing but we are done, 1-2-3 Cancun, 1-2-3 Miami Beach. Pick a beach, any beach. Ernie Johnson, who isn't a hyperbolic kind of guy, not a real dramatic kind of guy, called it the worst game he has ever watched. And I have to agree with him. It was one of the worst games I have ever watched.
I fell asleep about midway through the second quarter.
You missed nothing.
Oh my gosh. They were letting dudes just take their ball, finish however they wanted to at the rim. I understand that the Cavs defense is really, really good, particularly on the inside. But Bam was not forcing any sort of an issue. He seemed content to just run up and down the court and let other dudes get their shine in. What limited shine he got, there was none.
There was no shine.
It was just.
They had people debating
bad.
if they should ever be allowed to wear the Heat culture jerseys again, or at least for the next year, 2 years, 3 years. There has to be a moratorium on wearing the Heat culture jerseys after you suffer not just a 55-point loss in Game 4, but the worst sweep in the history of the NBA postseason. And by that, I mean they lost all 4 games by a combined total of 122 points. And that is history. That is the worst a team has ever faced when it comes to their exit in the playoffs. So that stinks to watch if you're a Heat fan. But then it has to be made significantly worse to watch Jimmy Butler, Jimmy Buckets, playoff Jimmy, have 27 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, go 12 of 12 at the free throw line, including some clutch ones down the stretch, have a game-sealing rebound, literally the epitome of why they call him playoff Jimmy. And then he gets the walk-off interview on the broadcast last night, and what does he say? I got my joy back. If you're a Heat fan, you just have to be sick. You just have to be ill. You could not have had a worse night. And for me, I'm like, well, there could be something worse than how the Memphis Grizzlies season came to a conclusion.
Oh, yes, they
There's something.
absolutely could.
I love being reminded that somebody always has it worse. And last night, it was the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler was awesome. I think the Warriors are, 28-5 now with Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry both playing. And Steph barely, not that I don't want to say he barely did anything, but he had an off game for Steph. It's not like we're sitting here coming out of a big Warriors postseason win in the space that it normally feels that we are, and it's the heroics of Steph Curry. But Jimmy Butler was the star last night. And I know you have said that Pistons-Knicks is your favorite series of this postseason. And I was sitting there last night thinking to myself, I think Warriors-Rockets is mine. And that's because it is first team, all drama, first team, all theater. And I love when those extra things are, and it was physical as hell. The first half of that game was wrestling at that point. And we finally got some basketball late down the stretch. But everything was about this. Oh, look at the cackle. Look at the cackle. And then Jimmy Butler, read those lips. What does he call him?
Can't say
A bee
those
and a
things.
bum.
I can't say those
Double
things
B.
on air.
A bee and a
Whisper
bum.
in his ear, Dylan, let him know.
A bee and a bum.
Let's go.
A bee and a bum.
I love playoff basketball.
Love playoff basketball. I do hate not being an actual part of it. And I know I kind of cheat because in my household, I do live with a psychotic Warrior fan. And for the record, I did remove myself from the same room as him last night. We watched the second half in separate rooms, and that felt like it was for the best. But the words that my husband delivered to Dylan Brooks not from our couch, because he rose and he stepped up to the television and he was angry. And look at Jimmy could barely run after that block, and the hate that he has for Dylan Brooks fueled him. After the game, Jimmy Butler flat out said, "I don't like Dylan Brooks." Stop me if you've heard that one before. I don't like Dylan Brooks.
Join the club.
Join the chorus. It is it's so Dylan. It's just so Dylan Brooks. At one point in the first half, I'm like, God, I miss that energy on the team. And we didn't talk about this on the show, but I think I told you afterwards yesterday. I had my wrong laptop because I forgot my laptop charger over the weekend. So I had to use my personal MacBook, which I just don't use very often. So it wasn't connected to my iCloud. And I logged on yesterday morning to prep for the show, and my Notes app popped up. And the last time I had been signed into my Notes app was May of 2023. And the note that pops up on my laptop is, Dylan Brooks will not be back under any circumstances, in quotes. And it was at the end of the Dylan Brooks time here in Memphis following that Lakers series and when everything went to the end. But watching that game last night, I had to chuckle because, one, there have been, slight, faintly reminiscent moments of this Warriors-Rockets series that reminds me so much of the 2022 Grizzlies Warriors series. Young, plucky, tough, brash 2 seed trying to end the dynasty. And if things continue to go in the pattern that we saw in 2022, because who won game one? The Rockets, the Grizzlies. Then you have the Warriors win 3 tough games in a row. Game 5 was when the Grizzlies beat the Warriors by 55 or whatever the total was, 50 plus. So maybe you'll see the Rockets with a big bounce back. But if history repeats itself, you'll also see the Warriors go off to win another NBA title, which watching that team last night, I could see it.
What?
Yeah, I know. I don't think it's just because how do they keep doing this? And then they add Jimmy Butler, one of the greatest postseason players we've ever seen, and they get lucky with a vulnerable 2 seed, right? This Rockets team has some big positives to it, but God, are they young and dumb sometimes. Jalen Green was awful last night. I thought I put a lot of credence on Ime Udoka as a coach and the veteranship that he perhaps could provide the Rockets, the leadership necessary that maybe you weren't getting in the players, but you were able to get something at the top. And he was outcoached by Steve Kerr. I do not know why he drew up a play for Alperen Şengün to go at Draymond Green with the game on the line.
I do. That's the play I would have drawn.
At the defensive player of the year.
Go get him.
Not this year, but a one-time defensive player of the year.
Go get him. He's got 5 fouls. You can get where you want to. He's not going to be able to be near as physical with you.
Go get him before the final play of the game. You could have gotten him out early.
I understand that part also. But in that moment, Şengün just didn't make a good enough play. And tip of the cap to Draymond Green, like you said, a former defensive player of the year, somebody who that Warriors franchise needs desperately.
Yes.
Needed desperately. Steph and Clay, two of the greatest three-point shooters of all time. Kevin Durant, one of the greatest scorers of all time. But that franchise might look a bit differently. That the trophy case for that franchise might look a bit different if Draymond Green isn't there infusing them pre-Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
And even with Jimmy Butler. Now it's on steroids with the toughness, the confidence, the belief,
the IQ,
the willingness to do whatever it takes to win a basketball game, any basketball game, whatever it takes to do it. Draymond Green is out there doing it. And last night was a beautiful representation of that. 5 fouls, a tech, a flagrant.
Which don't get you ejected from a game. If we're doing foul math of last night, that was a good reminder to everybody because
he ends with
2
7
techs,
fouls.
Yeah.
He ends with 7 fouls.
2 techs equals an ejection. A flagrant 2 equals an ejection. But 1 tech plus 1 flagrant, what does it equal? Draymond Green can still
Keep
play in
playing,
the
baby.
basketball game. And it was so
Keep
funny because it was, I think for one of the first times, the timeline was pretty united in the first call on him. That first technical maybe shouldn't have been a technical. It felt a little bit soft in the skirmish where the Rockets end up getting a free throw out of it. They're plus. Like at that point, you're thinking Dillon Brooks is doing this perfectly because he baited both Draymond and Steph Curry to get techs on that play. And so everyone's like, do I think Draymond Green was wronged with this call? This is such a weird feeling. This is such a unique feeling. I've never felt this before. And then no less than 2 minutes after that, Draymond Green is kicking someone in the head. And we're back to doing one of my favorite playoff activities, which is identifying what did Draymond Green intend to do with fill in the blank appendage.
He intended to do exactly what he did.
I
with the
think so.
appendage. What are we talking
think so.
about? He's got a history of doing it. Once is
He's so
accident.
good, but he's so infuriating.
That's what it is with those types of guys. You don't need bunches of them on your team. Otherwise, stuff pops off, and then you end up with everybody in the stands fighting in the palace, right? Like, you don't need a team full of those people, but you do need 1, 2, if you can, 3 to try and to give you that toughness. It's difficult to rein them in, but if you can rein them in, you've got to have the Draymond Greens, you got to have the Charles Oakleys, you got to have the Dennis Rodmans, right? Like, you've got to have something like that on your team because you're going to be in a moment, especially if you're a good team wanting to take the next step and win a championship. You're going to be in a moment where that toughness and physicality is needed. Dillon Brooks was that some for the Rockets last night. I thought you left that game thinking, oh my gosh, Dillon Brooks, I missed that on the team. I left it thinking, holy hell, Steven Adams was on this team. That would be the perfect big.
That was another thing. I can't believe Ime
gosh.
Udoka took him out at the end of that game.
He took him out and then put him back. Right? Once it got to a certain point, he took him out and put him back in. They had started the hack a Steve-O thing.
Right.
Kevin Looney, Kevon Looney was hacking him.
What from the free throw line?
He didn't shoot any free throws.
He took 2 in the game, but it wasn't at the late
He didn't
stretch
shoot
of that.
late, and so Udoka took him out, and then with like 2 minutes left, put him back in. And by then it was a 1 point game either way, 1 possession game either way, and the Warriors weren't going to do the hack a Steven thing. Draymond Green.
They took him out with 40 seconds though. He wasn't in at the end of the game.
He was in on that rebound.
They put him back, but he wasn't in on the Şengün, right?
Yeah,
no, he
wasn't.
He was there because you're right. Because that's Jimmy
Butler
took it right
gets
out
the
of his hand.
rebound and says, "That's my effing
hell
rebound."
of a rebound by Jimmy Butler.
That's my mother effing ball right there.
Inspired rebound.
Nobody. I don't want to say nobody. I'm not sure if anybody is talking about it. I think you could have got Jimmy for a flagrant on Steven Adams on the box out. He hooked his arm and then tugged him and kind of threw him to the ground. But hey, big men doing big man stuff, tough.
Physical game. Sometimes players get calls, sometimes they don't. I thought the foul on Dillon Brooks was a reputation foul, the one on the Jimmy 3.
I didn't understand that at all.
Yeah.
And shout out to Jimmy, hobbled, limping to the free throw line.
Selling it.
Three. I don't think he's selling it. I think he's actually
I don't know.
hobbled.
Because like I said, on that chase down block early when it was, because that's the thing, lost in all of this, like until Dillon Brooks whispered sweet nothings in his ear and had his little cackling moment. Like, Jimmy Butler was not really performing. I think 23 of his 27 points came in the second half, and he looked struggling on that chase down block that ended up being a hard foul on Dillon Brooks. Just like inspired by the sheer hate of one man to chase him down in that moment. But then it felt like he got a burst and he kind of like played, and that's what we see happen all the time. Adrenaline is a hell of a drug. Whatever else is Advil continues to be a hell of a drug. Hell of a series or a playoff postseason thus far for Advil. But yeah.
Hate.
It was a great game.
Ask Luke Skywalker about hate and what it can do. It does a lot of great things. I didn't want to tell you what was going on because I didn't know if he was coming in or not.
Mike Wallace just walked into the studio. My eyes.
Jalen Green's got to be so much better. He didn't score.
Infinite better.
He didn't score at all in the second half, if I recall correctly. And that's your guy. That's your offensive weapon.
Their offense just folded. I think Devin put out a funny meme, but it is true. Like every postseason, someone throws out a zone, and suddenly like nobody knows what to do with it. And that was both teams. Lost in the like physical mess of the first half. The Rockets had a really productive offensive first half, all things considering, after they started so poorly. And then the Warriors like gifted them 3 turnovers in a row where it ends up being the 57-50 lead at the break. But anyway, Warriors are up 3-1. Our chat question of the day is, which team down 3-1 has the best chance of winning their series? So far, the Lakers with 47% of the vote.
Have you looked at the other 3-1 teams? Who are you voting for in that?
I like the Pistons.
Really?
They got spunk.
Okay.
The Rockets, I feel like, are dead. And the Bucks are absolutely dead. And the Magic, unless they just find a way to actually physically kill the Celtics, are probably dead too.
Pajemski, shout out.
Oh, Pajemski was great. I did wake up to maybe 30 direct messages of various Warriors-related stats that Chris wanted to make sure that I passed on. But one of them being Pajemski, 4th youngest player to ever record 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 made threes in a playoff game. And the only 3 ahead of him who did it earlier in age, LeBron, Anthony Edwards, and Ja Morant. And now Brandon Pajemski. But it was the others. Pajemski, Buddy had a couple big threes, especially that late deep one. So Warriors get the win. Mike Wallace is in studio. I'm thrilled. We're going to catch up with Mike about all things Grizzlies in the next segment. He was at Exit Interviews on Sunday. We'll do the latest on all of the rumors and reportings and musings on Ja Morant as a busy Grizzlies offseason has officially begun. That's all with Mike when we come back.
In honor of George Foreman, decided to do a pick 6 on 6 greatest heavyweight boxers of all time.
Number 4, my guy, Mike Tyson. There is no greater feat that I've had. Like if I had my Mount Rushmore of things that I've accomplished in my life, the very first time I beat Mike Tyson in Mike Tyson Punch-Out.
Get all of your HBCU sports and culture news by tuning in to HBCU Huddle with CJ Hurt and Mike Wallace. New episodes drop every Thursday on grindcitymedia.com, YouTube, and Spotify.
Let's face it, there's a lot of trash talk in basketball, but the great teams let their performance do the talking. Like Ford F-150 with Pro Power on board, a class-exclusive industry-first feature that turns your truck into a mobile generator and leaves the competition speechless. Ford F-150, official truck of the Grizzlies. Greatness starts here at your Mid-South Ford dealer. Class is full-size pickups under 8,500 pounds, GBWR.
Shinedown, Dance Kid Dance Tour. Live in Memphis. FedEx Forum, Saturday, August 30th. With special guests, Bush and Morgan Wade. Get tickets now at livenation.com. Shinedown, live in concert. For more, visit shinedown.com.
Marcus Thornton could get buckets.
Don't do that.
You don't say? He had a lot of 30 balls in the NBA.
On who?
We better not see Marcus Thornton crosses over Tony Allen.
Yeah,
Don't let us find that. Don't let us.
You forgot we got the internet, bro.
You said you might have done that. Hey, you always forget the internet exists.
The Chris Vernon Show, live on weekdays at noon on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
All you American wrestling fans out there, watching this international road to WrestleMania should be a wake-up call. Turn up at these shows. Stop being so spoiled, because Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes,
I love it.
Cody Rhodes.
Let's go, Cena. Cena sucks.
Yeah.
I'm wagging my finger because you're telling those people that they need to do better.
Yeah.
Tune in to Grind City Wrestling Weekly on the Grind City Media app and on the Grind City Media YouTube channel.
Debo traded from San Francisco to the Commanders for a 5th-round pick. There's no other sport where you would get a player of his ilk for a 5th-round pick.
Over under total yards for Debo. If they set it at 1,000, you think he hits that over?
Total yards?
Total yards from scrimmage. Total yards.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The Odds Couple, live at 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
We touched on this earlier, the panel here, about what really has been the mainstay of the Grizzlies, and that's Jaren Jackson Jr. Trip has just been awesome.
He's posting guys up. He's stronger than he's ever been. He's physical, and he's scoring all type of ways.
Hey, Grizzlies fans, be sure to tune in to Grizz Beat, where the panel and I break down all things Grizzlies and take a look at the rest of the NBA as well. The show is live every Wednesday, 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
All right, we are back. It is Tuesday. That means it's time to catch up with Grind City Media senior editor Michael Wallace. He is in studio, and I'm not going to let him waste any time because he's sitting here during the break telling us he has some exciting announcement.
Some exciting announcements,
some
transition
sort of
news.
announcement.
Like, I know it's not often that I get a chance to get down here in studio for this show, but, I had to come in, right? And, first and foremost, man, I wanted to personally thank CJ and his lovely wife, Courtney, for their recommendation letter, because they recommended my son, Kevin, for a summer program in the agricultural department at Tuskegee University. And he got accepted.
That's awesome.
And Kevin referenced CJ in his essay. And he said that, the conversation he had with CJ told him a lot about Tuskegee's culture and everything. So he
Look
got in.
at the recruit job.
And so, yeah. So here's the other part of the story, though, right? He also got accepted in the Tennessee State summer program.
Oh,
so now he's got a
he has to
decision to make.
choose?
He's got a choice
Are
to
both
make.
agricultural programs?
No, one of them is about transportation careers, and the other one is about agriculture. And those are both the things that he's expressed interest in. So I'm looking forward to seeing what this decision is going to be about, man. And we'll talk more about that on HBCU.
CJ is going to hold him hostage until he decides to go to Tuskegee for the summer.
He's a smart kid. He knows where to go.
Is it one of those programs where he would stay there?
Yes.
For a few weeks?
Yes. One of them is 2 weeks on campus. The other one is 3 weeks on campus. So, yeah, it's big time, man. It's a transition. I told you it's about transitions, right?
What age is he now?
15. He'll be 16 this summer.
Oh,
He'll be 16 this summer.
the best time to get away from your home.
Tuskegee, the pride of the swift growing South.
I know we got
Learn
a
the
lot of
lyrics,
other stuff to
CJ.
unpack, but this was
Well, it's
a cool
perfect
thing. Yeah.
because
Yes.
this feels like a transitional period for men, or what could be a transitional period. And you were at exit interviews on Sunday, and I think the resounding message from Zach Kleiman and others, but he's the one who physically used the words, "We're not close," multiple times. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that after the Grizzlies drop from the 2 seed to the 8 seed and ultimately get swept by the Oklahoma City Thunder. And you look at the trajectory of the last couple of years and where the Grizzlies were in 2022, 2023, and where they have found themselves versus where a team like the Thunder have found themselves. How did you kind of walk away from those exit interviews feeling about what it sets up for this offseason for Memphis?
In all honesty, I wish there were some more definitive statements that came out of it. I have a piece on Grind City Media and Grizz right now with my 4 takeaways from the exit interviews. And I didn't get a lot of definitive direction. I didn't get a lot of, hey, okay, this is priority 1, 2, and 3. It was, okay, let's just address as much of everything as we can without saying as much, much of anything.
Yeah.
And, that was kind of, for a franchise that has been about, hey, let's be buttoned up, let's be specific, let's be strategic. There wasn't a lot of strategic answers that those questions. There were some questions that begged to be answered. And I'm not saying you make all those decisions on exit interview day, but you at least publicly set out a course of direction that, frankly, a frustrated fan base needed to hear. A confused season ticket base needs to hear, and that's not clear right now. And it will play out over the next few weeks and months, obviously, but this wasn't the kind of season that this team had envisioned by any stretch of the imagination. As much as last season was frustrating and painful and all the injuries and all of those things, this season might even be worse because the expectation is there. And for the most part, you finished the season. Yes, Ja didn't play the last game and a half, but the fall off happened with Ja, Desmond, and Jaren relatively healthy, right? Relatively available. So you have to really ask yourself the hard questions, man. And we're asking those questions, but we're just not hearing a lot of answers right now, honestly.
Yeah, and as it pertains to who will be the coach for this team, who will be the players for this team, and the future of the core 3, those are all things to get figured out. And when there's this level of ambiguity, you were going to have this regardless. So I don't think anyone could say anything, because if Zach Kleiman said anything on Sunday, one of the people he spoke most pointedly about was Ja Morant and their relationship and it being strong at this point and the connectivity there. And then what do we get 24 hours later? The beginning of trade rumor speculation. You get trade think pieces from various publications. And you also get your first Ja Morant cryptic off-season tweet. We're in that season. I don't know if you saw this one yesterday.
I did.
But we got a tweet from Ja that said, "Be careful what you wish for." We're all left wondering. what
I'm not
is
doing
it
that.
in
I'm not
reference
doing
to.
this. I'm not
I
doing
also
this,
told
man.
myself I'm going to protect myself and protect my peace from the trying to Nancy Drew tweets of the offseason.
Right.
But it is an interesting thing coming off of a day where Tim McMahon, notorious Grizzlies he's not a Grizzlies reporter, but national reporter who has covered the Grizzlies in a variety of ways. He was on the Hoop Collective podcast, and he talked about how there's been a lot of whispering and rumbling around the league on if Ja Morant could be available for a trade this season. He also talked about conversations that he has had with various GMs or front offices where they no longer view Ja as a top 10 player in the NBA. Just how do you evaluate where we sit with Ja and what we heard from Zach Kleiman and the future here in Memphis?
You know what? That's a lot.
I know that was a heavy.
To borrow a phrase
pour.
from Zach Kleiman, there's a lot to unpack here.
Yes.
Right. There's a lot to unpack here. I guess starting off with the tweets and the cryptic messages, I'm not going to go into the summer like reading too much into it. Ja Morant is under contract. He's under a lucrative contract. He's the franchise face, and whether Kleiman is speaking to the media or through the media, he clearly wanted to get his message to Ja Morant. But that has been the case all the way along, right? Like 2 years ago, he said Ja Morant needs to have an offseason where he puts his focus in the right places. Last season, he said this has to be a healthy season for Ja Morant. And now you're hearing, hey, our relationship has never been closer. Well, yeah, okay, that's fine. It should be. Like, you're not telling us anything that should not have been the case, right? There is no reason at all for there to be any animosity between Ja and the organization. They've given him carte blanche in terms of basically the style that the season ended was his style, the style he wanted to play. He was embracing of Coach Tuoma Sisalo, from that standpoint. And he said basically publicly, leave me out of any of the other stuff. And I appreciated that because that was a show of maturity. LeBron says the same thing. And then behind the scenes, we know it's a little bit different. But all that said, though,
but you say the right thing out loud.
Yeah, he said the right thing out loud in that instance. Yeah. And I will say this about the overall speculation that's supposed to come.
Yes.
Right. There is not Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to be in trade speculation all summer. Right. LeBron James has been in trade speculation every summer since he's been in the league for the most part after his first few years in Cleveland. So that's not a knock against Ja. You look at that as, okay, this is something that people are recognizing, right? So now, is there a market for Ja Morant? How many teams will be interested in him? Are the Grizzlies interested in trading him? I think Zach Kleiman has been clear that if he's running his franchise, there's no intent on trading Ja Morant at all. And I think that part was one of the pieces of clarity that we did here.
And piggybacking from the statements that he made following the trade deadline, where it was pointedly, GMs can keep dreaming, but that's what it is essentially. To paraphrase, it's a dream, not a reality. The other thing he was pointed with was the priority of Jaren Jackson Jr.'s extension. If you look at the core three as a collective, and I'm not trying to read between tea leaves, I'm just looking at what was said. There were excessive words about Ja Morant. There was a definitive tone of Jaren Jackson Jr. and his extension as a priority. And Desmond Bane was mentioned, and there was an appreciation there. And there was also a general stance of there still could be so much potential with those three. But if you were ranking the confidence meter 1, 2, 3, I think that spoke for itself on Sunday.
It did. But again, like I said, I think Kleiman was exceptional in his evasiveness.
Yeah.
Right. He said enough to give you what you thought you needed to hear about one thing.
It was master lawyer speak.
But also on the other side, right?
Yes.
Because he said, all options are on the table.
Right.
We got to be open-minded was the term. Yeah. There's still so much to love and embrace about the core three. And yet we're not anywhere close, right? So it's a lot of stuff all over the place. And I think that was intentional. I think he was intentionally all over the place. But at the end of the day, though, I also think smarter people are in that room than a lot of people give people credit for. Like, we know BS when we hear it. We know when you're straight up when we hear it. And we also know, listen, Jaren Jackson Jr., as it relates to his contract, number one, he's got to get all NBA. If he gets all NBA, this is a moot point. Right. You don't qualify for an all NBA and then not sign it if once it's extended. The question is, if he doesn't get all NBA, is he incentivized to go ahead and commit to a deal now, or does he want to bet on himself one more year and then figure out what happens next season? That's the question. So that question isn't really necessarily for the Grizzlies. It's for Jaren Jackson Jr. So we'll see where he goes with that from that standpoint. But in terms of the priority and the pecking order, showing Ja the ultimate love that you need to show him because he's the face of your franchise. The collectiveness of the three still has plenty of work to do. You're either going to break that up or you're going to contribute to the margins. And then you got to figure out who's going to coach him and what style that's going to be. Because I think that's the first thing. How they handle the coaching search is going to tell me what direction this franchise is going to go in so many other directions from here.
And where do you stand on the coaching search right now? Because that was yet another area of evasiveness on
off the top.
Sunday. It was the first question. I was curious what the first question to Zach Kleiman would be following his brief prepared statement that 48 wins get you an 8 seed. It's not enough. I'm open to all questions. And it was about the coach. And it came off of a night on Saturday where Tomas Isolo, following the Game 4 loss, was asked, I think straight up, do you want to be the head coach of the Memphis Grizzlies? And I did think that question took him by surprise.
Why?
I know. And
so many people have said that. And that's a legitimate, but it should not have.
It should not have. And there should have been, of all the things, and I felt like it was such a testament to this very tricky waters that he was asked to navigate over the last 15 games of the season. But yes, there should have been a conversation before that. Hey, you are likely going to get this question. This is how media works in the NBA, especially in the NBA playoffs. You're coming off a sweep. That is the end of the season. It doesn't matter that there's exit interviews the next day where you can formulate
it's
whatever that is.
The exit interview starts now.
Right. And you could get asked about it at any point in time too. So it wasn't just a matter of it coming at that time. All of that combined into a place where then you hear from Zach Kleiman saying like a decision has not been made and that you're going to evaluate everything, but we know evaluations happen through and through too. Do you foresee, will we ever get an announcement of an official coaching search, or is this going to be the kind of thing where either Tomas Isolo is named head coach or we find out who another person is to be that head coach?
I think the latter. And that's just based on the track record that we've seen, right? There's not going to be a tipping of hand and alerting that this is what we're doing every step of the way.
The process is not going to be
and I wish that were the
broadcast.
case. I wish that were the case, but I'm sitting on this side of the media now, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm on this side where I want things to be done a little bit more open when it comes to it. I'll go back to the first part. Tuomo Asisalo should have been prepared himself. Like it shouldn't have taken a public relations staff to prepare you for what that's a question that you should be ready and have your answer in your holster from the moment you took over as interim.
That should be a mere
right?
practice question.
It should. You look at absolutely a mere practice question. And I mean, I can say it right now. Whether I want the job, think I need the job, or like the job, or whether they're going to offer me the job or not, the first thing I'm saying is absolutely. There are only 30 of these jobs in the world. This is the best league on the planet. I want to be a head coach of this organization. They got 3 of the top players in this league, and I want to continue to build with them. We didn't get a chance to scratch the surface on what we could potentially do together. Yes, I want this job. You could say that and just move on to the next question.
Yeah.
I didn't think he handled that question well, coming off of the game where I didn't think he handled the execution well.
Right.
And at some point, man, that's an adjustment you got to be prepared for after the game, just like you got to be prepared to make those in-game adjustments on the fly too. So that left a little bit to be desired. I do think he's a brilliant coach. He's a great guy. I love being around him. I love talking to him about everything. And if he ends up being the coach of the Grizzlies, that tells me the direction that this team is going to go. And I think he can be successful, but it's not like he's going to be put in any easier situation.
Right.
The stakes are going to be every bit as much as what they were when he took over with 9 games left, expected to get this team out of the first round of the playoffs. So if he doesn't do that, if this same thing happens and he has a full year as coach, he's going to be under scrutiny again. So he has to prove that he can handle this type of situation. And the results have been mixed, obviously, under some difficult circumstances.
Right. He's incredibly thoughtful. He's incredibly smart. Like, there's a reason why the Grizzlies paid a bunch of money to go get him from Paris basketball, a place where he was very successful. But there is a difference between basketball over in Europe.
You know who else was successful over in Europe? David Blatt.
Yeah.
He came to Cleveland, had a good start to the regular season, but he couldn't have the relationship part.
Right.
Managing.
Oh, I think that's the most difficult difference.
That is. It's not science. It's not a science fair project. It's not all about analytics. And it's in Europe, the games are about the coaches and the nationality and the pride and, hey, let's do
There's
this.
like a unity. And I don't want to
Yes.
say there's not a unity
No.
here,
In America, in the NBA, you're dealing with
Star
individual
power
contractors.
and contracts.
You're dealing with individual
It feels
contractors.
far more
as players.
business-like
Absolutely.
in all facets, as opposed to
Yes, because you got to manage. You got to
Yes.
manage egos. You got to manage how dudes are dealing with injuries and not necessarily. There are so many different layers of people you got to deal with as a head coach in the NBA that you don't necessarily have to deal with when you're overseas, and that's the tough part about it. So he has to master that part because Igor Kokoskov, if I'm saying his name correctly, was brilliant overseas. He got to Phoenix and couldn't last. David Blatt was brilliant overseas. He got to Cleveland and couldn't last. So that's not necessarily a great track record. It's going to be challenging. And you're dealing with some mercurial players in the NBA that you have to figure out, hey, this is not just about basketball. This is about who you are and what you're feeling coming into the gym that day.
Are there any coaches out there who you would hope the Grizzlies at least talk to, who are available?
That's a good question because, I haven't gotten that far, in terms of that. It's more conceptual in terms of what I think the Grizzlies need.
Okay.
If you are going to bring back at least 2 of the 3 of the core 3, or all 3 of the core 3, you need a coach that has gotten a team deep into the playoffs, who you're going to give the latitude to be able to get into the real weeds with Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. and figure out how to get those guys to play together. You're going to need – this is not a development job anymore. It's an execution job now. This is not, the Washington Wizards or, any of these other teams that are on the come. The job in San Antonio next season is different from the job in Memphis, right? Even though San Antonio is expected to go further because, now they should have everybody healthy. But I don't have necessarily specific names, but the type of person that needs to coach this team right now isn't a guy that's getting his first NBA job. It needs to be someone who's been around the block before, who has some authority, whose voice is going to resonate, someone who Ja can feel like he's aligned with, but also can be held accountable by. And if you don't have that, then you're basically just resetting what you already had. And that's not the knock on Taylor because he did everything he was supposed to do in this job. And he just wasn't the coach to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
Now you need a next level opportunity for a coach. It could be Tuomas. it's just one of those things where I still have to see it in order to believe it.
And that presents, I mean, you're going to have to see anything to believe it, right? And that's, CJ yesterday, even as we went into talking about exit interviews, I'm past the point of caring what is said about this team. I want to see what's done, not even in the 82 games of a regular season, but in the postseason. And that's what this all comes down to. Like when you look at any national publication who's talking about the Grizzlies, it is the focus on Jaren and Dez have one playoff series win over the last 5 years, and that not being enough.
That was
and
3
what
years ago.
needs to be done. And it was 3 years ago, and it feels 3 years ago. Like time adds up quickly because now we will be going into next season. And you know what it'll be? It'll be 4 years ago, unless you end up getting a playoff series win. And the West continues to constantly get better.
Yeah.
If they do have the situation where it is the core three returning and believing that there is still a next step that those three can take together, what is the most important thing for this team to add in the offseason around them?
Ooh, so, and see, therein lies where the multiple layers are. So, are you bringing back the core three with Jaren having all NBA with the contract extension? Are you bringing back the core three with, Jaren saying, okay, I'm just going to go into next season and figure out what happens? And that puts some urgency on the matter as well. Beyond that, again, the next most important piece, regardless of the roster, is the coach. Is the coach. Like, Lionel had a different voice than what Taylor Jenkins had. They both were demanding. But Lionel would get into the trenches with Tony Allen and Zebo and Mike Conley and say, you ain't S. Like, you're not doing it. You're dogging it. He would, and then they would get in. Lionel would tell you, like, they would get into arguments, cursing each other out, damn near fighting. And then when they walked out there, they were the hardest working team, scrappiest team, the team of dogs that Zach Kleiman talked about having and resonating with this team. Like, everybody in Memphis knew that that's the kind of team that resonates here.
Yeah.
This team hasn't connected in that way. They've connected in a different way, but that's the kind of voice that you need. So the next most important voice, if you're going to bring those three back, is who's going to be coaching those three, and then everything else fills out from there. Because there's not one guy that you can add on a mid-level exception that's going to make a major difference to what you have. I'd rather just
That's what's difficult for.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's dream trades galore, and you watch the playoffs and think, God, I would really love. I'll say the exact same thing I said. I'd love a guy like Josh Hart on this team. But guess
how
what?
are you going to get him?
Realistically, how does that happen?
You have the full mid-level exception, which is about $12 to $14 million.
I think there's like a Nikhil Alexander-Walker would be one of the options there, but he'll be the hottest of that bunch, likely.
But is that? I mean, we talked about it before. Dorian Finney-Smith. Like, was he going to really do anything with this team to that degree? Possibly, maybe. You know what I'm saying? But again, like,
it changes. Sometimes a fraction of a change really can change the balance of a team.
It could. But we thought that was the case with Marcus Smart,
right?
And that didn't fit.
And sometimes it can go the opposite direction.
And then what you're looking for is almost what you had, and he got away in Dylan Brooks. Right now, you weren't going to pay somebody $20 million to do that. We're talking about a much cheaper person. But then when you look at what you're bringing back, is the combination of a Jalen Wells, more experience with a more robust game. Yeah. He's an option right there too. You can figure out what you want to do with Santi, whether it's a sign and trade, or Luke Kennard, whether you want to sign and trade or whatever. You have some options there. But again, if Jaren, and Dez can't be enough to get you over the hump, then you got to remix that chemistry right there. You got to remix that set and figure out where to go from there.
Okay, as we watch the other NBA playoffs, I joked I was very serious at the beginning. It was nice to watch someone have a worse night than the Memphis Grizzlies last night, because sometimes in your pain, you can find, I won't say joy because that feels dirty to say, but just comfort in somebody having it worse than you, and that is the Miami Heat. But in watching the Grizzlies
60?
Thunder,
that was 60, right?
55.
55, okay.
But I think once you hit the 5, you can round up.
Okay.
We can round up in this situation. Like if you're talking about it at a whole number, I'd go 60 before I'd go 50 if it's at 55. Who impressed you more in their first round matchup? The Thunder or the Cavs? Because both get the sweep.
Yeah, they both got the sweep.
The Grizzlies at least showed a pulse.
Yeah. I want to say the Thunder because, and that's because I got to see it with my own eyes, 4 straight games. And I got to see those guys between games and practices and sessions and how they go about conducting themselves and how everything is businesslike. And, they don't worry about, like, I don't follow a lot of players or a lot of teams on social media. But I don't see a lot of Thunder guys just out there.
But it is
in
crazy.
the social media streets. I don't see them I don't see them making anything about them more so than the collective.
I don't.
And I'm not
like,
saying that's
Shea
a knock
has
against.
a good because Shea
Yeah.
is big in the fashion space.
Yeah.
And he has his deal with Converse.
Every bit as much as
And the three
Jaren.
of them are in the AT&T commercial.
Mm-hmm.
So you have them working together on a commercial, and you also have them. And it started last year with their post-game interviews, and like they're goofing on each other, and they're doing things similarly, like just call it what it is, to what we saw this Grizzlies team do in 2022, 2023. But there seems to be, for some reason, it all is more palatable for people with this Thunder team. Yes, CJ.
It's palatable because they're good. You can do. You
The
can do
Grizzlies
that.
were
you
good
can
when
do
they
that.
started it.
Are they good now?
No, they're not. No, I'm not
okay,
saying
so
that
when the
now.
Grizzlies
Yes.
started it, it was palatable then also. The Grizzlies have when the weight of expectations hit this Thunder's
Sure.
team, they met it and they've risen
And
to
they took the next step.
And they
Yeah.
took the next
Yeah.
step.
Yeah.
The Grizzlies didn't do that. One. Two, they're not having the goofy off-court conversations that the Grizzlies have been having since that Lakers series. Pre that Lakers
Oh,
series.
yes, completely.
Right. So then it becomes okay, are the Grizzlies all talk? And once people realize that that's what they are, then it becomes, everything they do, we got to make a mockery of now because they're a joke. Whereas with the Thunder, you can't mock
They
them
follow
because
up
they're
last year.
good.
They put
followed
together one
up,
of the most
they
efficient
played
seasons
well,
we've ever seen. They made
And they're-
additions on the margins that made them a better team.
and they're not having the goofy off-court conversations on celebrations or talking to the media or not talking to the media, which we saw during the Lakers series a while back. Nobody saying, well, if I was, I could. There's not that conversation going on either. So yeah, the Thunder get to do that.
Well,
That's your reward for being good.
Sure.
They've been successful, and that's the thing. Like the thing I try not to do is credit the Thunder by saying that they're the anti-Grizzlies. Like
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily fair to Memphis because
I think there's actually a lot of commonality.
but there's also a difference in terms of how the team came about. There's a difference in terms of the leadership voice. Ja Morant is a very defiant, chip on his shoulder, is me against the world kind of guy. That's what got him to where he is. He was overlooked. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander went to Kentucky. He was one of the best players in his country.
I've always known.
You know what I mean? So it's different. Ja had to say, hey, I'm going to kick this door in and you're going to recognize me for who I am, right? And that mentality always, and there's something there in terms of, how much confidence does he have in himself versus how much does he have to continue to generate so you can look at him and make sure that you never take the spotlight off of him. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Thunder don't really need that, right? They're not saying we're in a small market. They never said how many games are we going to get on national TV. They don't care. They're just out there balling. And then when it and again, if you had to draft, like if you just randomly had to draft players from both rosters, you would split Ja and SGA, right? But after that, you probably would go just on reputation.
It's a difficult
You know what I'm saying?
exercise.
You probably would go more Grizzlies before you go Thunder based on what they've proven over the course and based on what the narrative is overall, right? Now, take this part. You're going into next season. And even with Jaren Jackson Jr. only set to earn $23 million next season, Ja, Jaren, and Dez are going to account for $99.5 million on your salary cap. $100 million between those three players. You look at the same thing from Oklahoma City, at least you could say, you know what, they finished first in the West 2 years in a row or whatever. They're going to, they're the prohibitive favorite to get. Like, they've delivered on what you're paying them and they're outperforming their attention, right? Whereas the Grizzlies are not outperforming their attention or their payroll at this point. So if you're going to compare the two, that's where you compare them. But in terms of style and how they go about, the post-game interviews and all that kind of stuff, that stuff is fun. But you can't celebrate in the postgame if you're not winning games. And that team won 68 games, right? So they had a lot more postgame celebrations.
All right, before I let you go,
Yep.
which of the teams down 3-1 have the best chance of coming back and winning their series? Rockets, Lakers, Pistons, Bucks, Magic.
I want to say, and I heard you talk about this last segment, to me, because of how close the series have been, you got to go Rockets because they get to go home, right? And all they got to do is, they got to win one at home, and then they get a possible game 7, back, right? But they're down 3-1, so they got to win a couple of them. I would go Rockets just because they've been right there in all of these games for the most part. And again, the Warriors are going to have to continue to do miraculous things in order to hold these guys off. They're not the smartest team. They don't finish the best in terms of Houston, but I think Houston, out of the teams that are down 3-1, has my most confidence in terms of turning it around.
Mike?
Yep.
Congrats.
I know
to
that's
Kevin.
not good news for the Benson and the Benson household, you know what I mean, and Chris Luther, you know what I mean. But at the end of the
People
day,
don't
man,
understand my plight.
this dude was down and out like this time a year ago. Like he thought it was over.
Right.
Right.
He's been a year ago. Try 5 months ago
Yeah,
before the trade
yeah,
deadline.
yeah,
we weren't
yeah.
watching Warriors games anymore. Everything was done. And just like Steph Curry apparently reportedly told Draymond Green when they signed for Jimmy Butler, this is our last ride. And
Yes,
Chris has
yes.
grasped on, and
We're
all
back.
those Warriors fans have grasped
Yep.
on for dear life.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they are ready to go. But I did you see Chris on the Jumbotron? Yeah, you did.
I
See?
did.
He roots heartily for the Grizzlies.
Absolutely,
When the
absolutely.
Warriors aren't playing.
He's got
That's
a
the
second.
only caveat.
He's on his
He's
other
a
team
two-team
now.
guy.
Yes.
We're a two-team household. We will
There you
never
go.
have a split flag, and we'll never wear split hats because that's weirdo behavior. Just know there's a little bit of both.
Y'all right. I got you.
All right, Mike. We will catch up with you next week.
Yes,
You don't have to
yes.
be here next week. We'll
Yes.
Skype you next week. We'll see if you come back into
Skype.
the studio.
Skype
Or
is
I'm sorry,
gone.
Zoom.
You gonna
Skype
Zoom
is
me?
dead.
Okay, good.
That's
You're
something
gonna
that we're
video
just going to have
conference
to
me next
retire
week.
from the lexicon.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
That's true.
It's going to be as bad as like talking about Blockbuster.
Yeah,
The kids are going to be
yeah.
like, what the hell is Skype? I've never heard of Skype. God, we're losing our recipes. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We did not get an opportunity to talk about the NFL draft yesterday. We will talk about the Shedeur Sanders of it all and other top storylines coming out of NFL draft weekend, plus TV Tuesday when we come back.
Creed. By overwhelming demand, the Summer of '99 tour returns. July 27th, FedEx Forum. With special guests 3 Doors Down. And Mammoth WVH. Tickets on sale now at livenation.com. Creed returns, the Summer of '99 tour.
Kroger shoppers and Grizz fans, want exclusive last-minute discounted ticket deals texted straight to you during the Grizzlies 2024-2025 season? Sign up with the new Kroger Buzzer Beater deal. Fans can sign up by texting Grizz to 636-479 or visit your local Kroger store in the Delta Division and scan the QR code. By signing up, you agree to receive recurring automated promotional and personalized marketing text messages from the Memphis Grizzlies. Consent is not a condition of any purchase. Message frequency varies. Message and data rates may apply.
Marcus Thornton could get buckets.
Don't do that.
You don't
to
say? He had a lot of 30 balls in the NBA.
On who?
We better not see Marcus Thornton crosses over Tony Allen.
Yeah,
Don't
hold
let
on,
us find that.
You forgot,
Don't let us.
you forgot we got the internet, bro.
You said you might have done that. Hey, you always forget the internet exists.
The Chris Vernon Show, live on weekdays at noon on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
All you American wrestling fans out there, watching this international road to WrestleMania should be a wake-up call. Turn up at these shows. Stop being so spoiled because Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes,
I love it.
Cody Rhodes.
Let's go, Cena. Cena sucks.
Yeah.
I'm wagging my finger because you're telling those people that they need to do better.
Yeah.
Tune in to Grind City Wrestling weekly on the Grind City Media app and on the Grind City Media YouTube channel.
I see people who look like me and were born probably in the same decade as me, watching all of these young people jump into the transfer portal and saying, it's ridiculous. You got to stop thinking about this like it's a normal college experience. It is not. You know what the priority is? Maximize your earning potential for every year of eligibility you have left. That's what this is about now. These are jobs.
The Gary Parrish Show, live on weekdays at 10 a.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
Grizz Nation gets set for tip-off 1 hour before every Grizzlies home game with the warm-up show. Get the latest news, notes, and analysis live from courtside at FedEx Forum.
Who's going to be the tougher team that rebounds and prevents second chance opportunities?
Join me, Lang Whitaker, along with Michael Wallace, Jessica Benson, and other personalities from Grind City Media, Memphis, and around the NBA. 1 hour before every home game, live at Grind City Media on X, YouTube, and the official Grind City Media mobile app.
In honor of George Foreman, decided to do a pick six on 6 greatest heavyweight boxers of all time.
Number 4, my guy, Mike Tyson. There is no greater feat that I've had. Like, if I had my Mount Rushmore of things that I've accomplished in my life, the very first time I beat Mike Tyson in Mike Tyson Punch-Out.
Get all of your HBCU sports and culture news by tuning in to HBCU Huddle with CJ Hurt and Mike Wallace. New episodes drop every Thursday on grindcitymedia.com, YouTube, and Spotify.
What's up, everybody? We are back, and because we ran out of time yesterday going all through all things Grizzlies and exit interviews and NBA playoffs, we did not have an opportunity to discuss the NFL draft, and rather whether you like it or not. Yes,
Are we
CJ?
going to discuss the draft, or are we going to discuss the dude?
That's the thing. Like, how will you remember the 2025 NFL draft? Will you remember it as the Shedeur Sanders draft? Because I think that's how most people will. I think it is the biggest draft story that we've had in the last few years, the most talked about, the most polarizing. Everybody has an opinion on it. Everybody thinks they're right. Everybody thinks somebody else is wrong. There's probably a lot of middle ground to be covered, but that's never a fun, sexy place to come from the sports talk space and the fan talk space and everything that surrounds the Sanders family space that we first started to see when they went to Colorado and the conversations that popped off in the immediacy of that. And now that continues after Shedeur Sanders falls to the 5th round and ultimately ends up being taken by the Cleveland Browns with the 144th overall pick. That Browns quarterback room is an interesting space because they also took Dylan Gabriel. So it was odd to see them take Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round, follow it up with Shedeur in the 5th. But I truly do believe, I mean, sure, we'll be tracking Jacob's belief in the next Steve McNair of Cam Ward for his franchise quarterback opportunities with the Tennessee Titans. And we will absolutely be curious. I mean, I think in terms of players who could have the biggest impact and be like a true star, we get to the Travis Hunter of it all and the Jags trading up and taking that pick from the Browns and ultimately selecting Travis Hunter with the number 2 pick. Teams got better. Some teams didn't. But I think we'll always remember this as the Shedeur draft.
Yeah, and I
don't love that.
Listen, it's business, man. I hate saying the phrase "it is what it is," but that's what it's going to be until it isn't.
He was still I had Get Up on this morning, and I think it was the number 2 story after Warriors Rockets and NBA playoff action from last night. And up next, and I didn't listen to it because I honestly I'm tuned out at this point. I'm zapped of all Shedeur narrative and discourse. It's just been a lot.
I've seen lesser quarterbacks taken earlier than Shedeur.
We saw it over the weekend.
I as somebody who's not enthralled with the quarterback position, I think we overvalue that position. I've seen worse go sooner than Shedeur. Now, I will say that because we talked about it on Friday when it was like clearly he's going to go the second day of the draft and then he didn't. But there's something to be said about those loud, braggadocious players, especially at the quarterback position, where you look up and you say, okay, who is the most personable, charismatic quarterback in these press conferences? And you end up coming across somebody like a Jameis probably, right? And it's like, okay, Jameis has a shtick. He's leaning into it.
And there are different layers to this too, because charisma covers so many different avenues. Like, you want to know where my brain went when you said that?
Where?
Jalen Hurts. Because I just think, I'm like, I enjoy listening to Jalen Hurts.
He smolders. He has a charm.
Sorry, sue me.
He has a charm.
There's a charm to him.
Yes.
But that's not what you meant by that version of Jameis fits perfectly in that space.
Bombastic, braggadocious, constantly talking. You'll tolerate that type of stuff from a receiver. You'll tolerate that from a linebacker or a defensive end or a cornerback. But not necessarily from your quarterback.
Receiver energy in quarterback form.
That's Shedeur.
Yes.
And you don't want those can't believe it's off-field distraction season already in the NFL, but you don't want they don't want off-field distractions no matter what the distraction might be. So if you've got a quarterback who is chirping in the media with an opposing player, you don't want that. If you got a quarterback who is chirping about poor line play or poor receiver play, you don't want that. And Shedeur Sanders seems like the type of guy who, after a tough bout of games, will say, hey, these dudes over here on this side aren't playing the way that we need them to be playing. And NFL owners and front office members don't want that, because that in turn puts pressure on them to do a different job, a better job than what they were doing. So also, the players might not always see the vision of the general manager, and players can get frustrated by that. And then you've got a case where this player is beefing with you, the general manager, and why would I want that on my team? Why would I want that? Why do I want somebody who's coming in to make my job, who coming in would make my job a bit more difficult, right? I would say because you think he's a good football player, and winning trumps all. If you think you're a good enough GM and you've got good enough coaches around, you go get the player that you think best helps you win games. But in the NFL, man, it's all about keeping my job. I wish it was more about winning. But you can look at decisions that teams make and say, oh, this coach is going with this player here to try and keep his job. This general manager is going to do this to try and keep his job, not necessarily to win. And I think that the quarterbacks that I can think of immediately, Cam Newton, Johnny Manziel, both of them won Heismans.
Baker.
So Baker, another one, like great college career. Baker won a Heisman too.
I believe so.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Baker won a Heisman. Oh, yeah, because Oklahoma had that stretch where it went Baker, Hurts, Murray, or Baker, Murray, Hurts. Can't remember exactly.
Yes.
So those are Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. Shedeur Sanders wasn't that. As great as he was, and I think he was great at Colorado.
Oh, yeah, Baker won it over Lamar.
Most accurate, and rightfully so, I think.
And Bryce Love finished second that year.
Got you. Yeah. I think Shedeur, one of the most accurate, if not the most accurate passer in collegiate football last year, certainly in this draft. You want somebody who can stand in the pocket and read a defense. I think Shedeur Sanders can do that. Big, statuesque guy. I think Shedeur fits all of those things. But again, if it's, hey, this guy's going to come in, and if we don't start him, we get off to a 1-4 start, it's going to pop off in the media, and the media is going to be clamoring for Shedeur Sanders, and that's going to put pressure on us, and we don't want that smoke. We don't want that. I will also say the Browns front office did not want to draft. It sure as hell didn't look like.
You watched the video.
And it might not be, we just don't want this dude on the team. It felt like to me, well, why the hell did we draft the other dude?
Gabriel,
why did we draft? If we were going to take him, you're setting both of those guys up for failure. That's not a good situation to be in for either one of those quarterbacks right now. That's tough. If you were going to draft Dylan Gabriel, why the hell would you draft Shedeur? If you're drafting Shedeur, why the hell would you use that third-round pick on Gabriel? That's beyond me. But hey, when the owner calls, you got to answer, man. And when the owner says jump, you kind of got to jump. Got to say how high. So I wish both of them all the best. I don't think this goes well because, again, being a rookie quarterback, you have to be free to make mistakes. And if Shedeur's on the roster, not because of him necessarily, but because of everything around him on the outside, Gabriel's not going to be free to make mistakes. No quarterback is going to be free to make mistakes. And then when you put Shedeur in, he's not going to be free to make mistakes because of all the Shedeur hate around him as well. And the Browns as an organization are bad. They aren't built with the infrastructure necessary to help young quarterbacks figure things out. That's why they remain bad for so long. It's just a real shit show around Shedeur Sanders and the Browns, unfortunately.
It is. And it's, again, as everything is in this world, a case of multiple things can be true. I, like you, believe in the talent of Shedeur Sanders. I also think in drafts like this, if everybody devalues the quarterback position, not devalues it, that's the wrong word, but understands that there's no one great enough to take a swing on, so build your roster out to the best of your abilities, and then by the time you get to the 5th round, you all start taking flyers on the guys that you like. But there is a weirdness. You can make your arguments for Jackson Dart. It's just a personal preference. Got a lot of people who are like, you don't watch any college football. No, I watched a lot of Jackson Dart, actually. And I just prefer Shedeur Sanders as a quarterback over Jackson Dart. You can make a case for that. What I cannot make a case for is like Tyler Shugg. He's 26 years old. Watched a lot of college football. That was a bizarre, and once that happened, I was like, oh, he might not get picked. Like that was the minute he went off the board, I said, oh, Shedeur Sanders might actually go this entire draft. He might be Mr. Irrelevant at this point, which ultimately goes to a former Memphis Tiger,
Go Tigers,
which was
go.
exciting. Go Tigers, go. Mr. Irrelevant going to the New England Patriots this year, Kobe Minor, and they learned the hard way that you should probably not have a graphic that says A minor on it because that's like not a positive thing for Kobe Minor. It's implying that you're a pedophile like Drake. Shout out Kobe Minor, Mr. Irrelevant. But all that to be said, obviously nobody thought Shedeur Sanders was worth taking early with all of the baggage as you laid out. And that's baggage that he was born into. Like, it's not as if Shedeur Sanders went and joined the circus. Like, he was born into it. He was born into it with the last name. And we see how situations that, become your life, you don't have any choice in it, but that's who he is. And in reading a lot of different people and their takes on the interview process with Shedeur, like, yeah, I'm sure he pissed a couple people off. Obviously pissed a lot of people off in how he handled some of those conversations and a lack of interest and trying to play the game of going where you wanted to go. But other quarterbacks have gotten away with that from the test of time. Other players have gotten away with that. Front offices make so many slides when it comes to a player for various allegations, for various truths about a player. They make excuses and say, you know what, we're still going to draft them. And I believe that they didn't with Shedeur because they were trying to send a message. And it is a message to Shedeur, and it is a message to every quarterback like him afterwards. And there won't be, not to sound like Coach Prime himself, there won't be another Shedeur. No, but there will be somebody who has generated so much star power through NIL, through their college experience, that they will go into a draft process thinking that they have more power than a front office. And the front offices around the National Football League wanted to remind every single one of those future quarterbacks or athletes, period, no, you don't.
I think that's another great point, and that's another piece of this. With the money in college sports right now, you aren't, because you got money, you aren't desperate for an NFL paycheck. You're coming in a good college football player now. What are you spending 3 years in college? You got to spend 3 in college. A good one is going to have a nice nest egg of money. And so they aren't going to be willing now to be talked to any old kind of way. Gone are the ridiculous questions that front offices have been able to get away with, thinking about Des Bryant and his mom, right?
Yeah.
Like, mom was either on drugs or prostitute or something like that, and front office execs just jumped all over that and was asking him all those types of questions in an interview. Gone are those days. Players have a bit more power because with money comes power. They have a bit more. And so now NFL executives, and I feel like this is true, using Shedeur, saying, hey, we get it. Young men, y'all are making money now. This is still an NFL. We're not going to tolerate certain things in interviews. I can understand if you're the team who Shedeur tanked the interview with. I can understand you saying, you know what, we just don't want this guy. He tanked this interview. It's clear he tanked this interview. We're done with him. I would doubt he tanked every interview. And so that then becomes my question. Why didn't you take him? If not because it's somebody called you and said, guess what this kid did in this interview? He wore all this cologne and he came in with his whole entourage, blah, 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 blah. Well, he didn't do that at our interview.
Did you see the tweet where he called out the player who wasn't good enough, who was forced to transfer, and he said he didn't even know his name, so he must not have been good enough? Like, yes. And should he have tweeted that? Probably not. He's, at that point, a young person making mistakes in this life that ultimately add to this giant bag of Shedeur-ness with it. But I got in so many arguments about this over the weekend, and the one thing I will never do is side with the billion-dollar corporation on how employees are constantly reminded that Like, you do not have the power in this situation. And that's where I ultimately stand with it on Shedeur Sanders. And that is what we will remember from this year's NFL draft. We have to take a quick break. We have updates on the Bill Belichick CBS Sunday Morning interview. We have updates. Jordan Hudson, girlfriend of Bill Belichick, she is retweeting up a storm right now of everybody coming to her defense for Sunday's interview. If you missed that, we'll fill you in on the situation, fill you in on the latest details, plus TV Tuesday, what we're watching, and we'll get into it on the rest of this Tuesday. Oh.
Bain drives. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Close. He hits and the Grizzlies have the lead. Yeah! Jaron with a knockaway. Good defense. Morant attacking, spinning, hanging, and hitting. Benson, go!
Sonic Radio. Welcome back to Sonic RNDIO. That spells radio with me, the CIO. This just in, the new Sonic $1.99 menu lets you build a crave-worthy meal for just $1.99 an item. Whether that's a creamy shake, crispy tots, or a quarter-pound double cheeseburger. This just out. Ostriches. They're mean, not very cute, and in my opinion, way too big for a bird. Don't miss the Sonic Fun 99 menu. 5 items, always $1.99. Live free, eat Sonic.
Tax not included. See menu for details.
The new issue of Slam, the cover dropped, and it is our friend Jaron Jackson Jr. on the cover.
And shout out to you, Lane.
Yeah.
You kept, well, I mean, we knew about it, but you kept this a secret the whole time. So shout out to you for
I wrote
putting
this story.
together.
We did the photo shoot a couple weeks ago here on a Sunday afternoon in the practice court. The Sneak Fest show, live Tuesdays at 2 p.m. on Grind City Media on X, YouTube, and the official Grind City Media mobile app.
All you American wrestling fans out there, watching this international road to WrestleMania should be a wake-up call. Turn up at these shows. Stop being so spoiled, because Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes,
I love it.
Cody Rhodes.
Let's go, Cena. Cena sucks.
Yeah.
I'm wagging my finger because you're telling those people that they need to do better.
Yeah.
Tune in to Grind City Wrestling weekly on the Grind City Media app and on the Grind City Media YouTube channel.
Debo traded from San Francisco to the Commanders for a 5th-round pick. There's no other sport where you would get a player of his ilk for a 5th-round pick.
Over under total yards for Debo. If they set it at 1,000, you think he hits that over?
Total yards?
Total yards from scrimmage. Total yards.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The Odds Couple, live at 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
We touched on this earlier, the panel here, about what really has been the mainstay of the Grizzlies, and that's Jaron Jackson Jr. Trip has just been awesome.
He's posting guys up. He's stronger than he's ever been. He's physical, and he's scoring all type of ways.
Hey, Grizzlies fans, be sure to tune in to Grizz, where the panel and I break down all things Grizzlies and take a look at the rest of the NBA as well. The show is live every Wednesday, 2 p.m. on YouTube at Grind City Media and the official Grind City Media app.
All right, welcome back. TV Tuesday. And you want to know what's a TV show? CBS Sunday Morning. And you know what I watched over the weekend? The horrifically cringy Bill Belichick interview that started as a pretty softball interview with Bill Belichick about his new book, The Art of Winning. And then in the middle of it, they appropriately ask about his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, who has become a name in her own right. She has been at North Carolina football practices. She has been emailing on behalf of Bill Belichick, as they found in a public records request. So she is fair game. And the interviewer asked Bill how the two of them met. And Jordan Hudson.
Wait.
Yes.
Just a pretty logical question, simple question, easy question.
The simplest question in
obvious
the world.
Question. This isn't like last week when D'Angelo was like, yo, my homeboy it was dating.
There's not a lot of layers to this.
Like, no, that's what you ask when you meet somebody.
You know how we just talked to Mike about how like Thomas Isolo probably should have had an answer in the can for like, do you want to be the head coach?
Mm-hmm.
I think at this point of the Bill Belichick Jordan Hudson relationship, they should have a pretty staunch in the can answer, and they used to, and that's the problem because one, she interrupted the question and said, we're not talking about that, which was a wild thing to see. And it was wild that they included it. Like, I did mentally note the first time I watched it, wow, that's crazy that CBS included that portion in it. Well, it turns out, after various reporting after that interview, she interrupted them multiple times. And TMZ reported yesterday that that moment made the final edit because there were numerous instances of Hudson butting in. Even when he was answering questions about football, she would stop and correct him. Sources say that Belichick only arrived at the interview with Hudson, no one from his publishing company, no one from UNC, no other rep was around him, which was a bit of a head scratcher to start. And at one point, the question and answer got so heated that Hudson stood up, walked out, wanted Bill Belichick to follow. It is unclear if he agreed, but the blow-up delayed the whole interview for about a half hour. So that is clearly why producers at CBS Sunday Morning were like, we're including this bizarro reaction that she had to what should have been a simple question. They used to answer that they met on a plane, right? Do you remember when we first started talking about this relationship?
No.
So Jordan Hudson was this like young, pretty, I think at the time she was 23, she's now 24, and they reportedly met on an airplane, and I think it was something in regards to either she asked him to sign a book or they talked about a book, and basically like, wow, two mega minds sitting next to each other on a plane. Love it. At first book, love in the air. And then next thing you knew, they were posting together on Instagram, and she was wearing, like, he was in a Taylor Swift Eras hoodie sweatshirt at some point last season. And then Halloween comes along and they had the mermaid photo shoot. And it was so weird because this whole time, it's not like I normally am a huge fan of older men who one time were married for like 30 years to their childhood sweetheart, and that relationship fell apart because of alleged infidelity. That's a long story. I went down that rabbit hole this weekend. Like, allegedly he cheated on her with somebody in the Giants or the Jets, like an administrative assistant of some sort, but she always denied it. But the wife was like, no, I know. I've gone too far into the weeds here. But alas, Jordan Hudson, all she had to do was stick to the story that they met on the plane. Like, why do you not double down? Why do you not just go with it? Unless
Jordan Hudson isn't the one being interviewed either, right? So why are you talking at all? This is a pretty boring question. It would be a boring interview about a boring dude's boring ass book. Nobody will be talking about this at all.
Yes.
How did you guys meet on the plane? There you go. Now we're on to the next thing.
Can we move back to the book?
Yep.
You could even say that. I'm fine with that. Then you can make a case that like you're really trying to make this about the book and not about yourself. But instead, it becomes 10 times of a bigger deal. And like, I want to be clear, like, I could not care less if Bill Belichick did not actually meet Jordan Hudson on an airplane. And if there was some sort of a setup of some kind for the two of them to have a blossoming relationship. Like, he is a rich old man. He is welcome to do what he wants to do. She is perhaps an opportunistic young woman who wants to do what she wants to do. What I do think is insane is for a legendary head coach to be interrupted by his 24-year-old girlfriend on national television. Like, take away her privileges. Like, what do you do? Take away her allowance for the week? We didn't even talk about the Shedeur prank call. Like, what do you do to the prank call? What do you do to someone who interrupts
the prank call is fine. I think Shedeur.
I'm so glad we moved on from it. It was really dumb. I hate what the kid did. Not kid. I'm sorry. Man, he's 21 years old. Yeah. Like, I thought we stopped prank calling when we were 13.
Oh, no, we never stopped doing that.
You never stopped prank calling?
Like, if you can get a good one in, that was a good one.
Yeah, whatever.
Shedeur said, I think it was stupid, but hey, sometimes we do stupid things. It's not that big of a deal.
We don't have to write think pieces on that.
No, it's not. Somebody saw a
Tyler
number.
Warren had it happen to him too.
Tyler Warren, and it happens during NFL drafts. Somebody calls and prank calls, and it's if it's not happening to you, it's pretty damn funny. Now, if it was happening to me, I'd be outright. Either way it goes, back to the Belichick of it all.
Situation.
Answer the damn question. Now I want to know how they met.
Wait, now that's why I end up going down Bill Belichick's relationship history on a Sunday afternoon.
Well, they had a massage parlor or something
I don't
that?
know. Then there were some people who were speculating.
Reckless.
Reckless.
Reckless
because obviously
speculation.
him and Robert Kraft, like, they are no longer friends. Robert Kraft is not even, I learned this in the interview, which I did watch the entirety of it. Not even mentioned, not in the thank yous, not because originally he's asked, like, why is Robert not in the book? He goes, well, this is about my journey. And he goes, yeah, but you don't even put him in the special acknowledgments. And it's just an awkward interaction between the two. But, like, Robert Kraft, once upon a time, accused and found guilty of certain behavior in...
Well, they caught him at the massage
parlors.
They caught him. They raided the massage parlor and he was there.
So, like, could something have happened between the two of them that... Or is it just simply a matter of...
Just answer the damn question
then
so we don't have to do this.
I would not give two...
Squirrel farts.
About
that
it.
noise.
Bill Belichick, I don't care. Honestly, we haven't talked about this situation at all. No. Not through the public information request at the University of North Carolina, not her showing up at the spring game, not her like looking like she's giving him direction in a variety of ways. Like, we haven't talked about her. But now I am because she answered, we're not going to talk about that. And now I need to know how they met.
What if she, like you said, maybe they did meet on the plane. What if she is in training to be the next head coach at like North Carolina or someplace else? Where because she's around all these sporting events, she's there, she's on his hip. What if she's like, hey, Bill, this is what we're going to run here? He's like, okay, I got you. What if he secretly is the biggest feminist on the planet and he's just easing her in there? She's already got the curmudgeonly thing now. She's already
okay. So here's what she's
curmudgeonly.
retweeting. This is the update this morning. She had tweeted 5 times in the last 6 years. And now she has retweeted 5 different tweets in support of her and the situation. One said the interview was supposed to be about his new book about his dad at Navy. They were wearing Navy for this reason. Bill looks like he wanted to reach across and strangle the life out of the interviewer. I kind of wish he did. She retweeted that. No, I don't think she did.
Like Bill Belichick.
I'm sorry, Jordan, are you unfamiliar with your man's game? Like, we've seen this face for decades at this point in the sport.
She sees a different face.
Probably. I see a woman who cares about her man and doesn't want him to be screwed around by the media. Nothing awkward about it. Imagine a private person wanting to keep their private life private. Shocking. Oh my God, what are we doing?
But that's not a private thing if you've made it public.
You've made it public. That is my biggest pet peeve, is
just
this
answer
notion.
The question. Or say, hey, want to keep it on the book? Or say, hey, we already talked about that, but it was on the plane. Can we get back to the book?
But instead, it was... We're not going to talk about that. We're not talking about that.
I also was like, is she wearing clothes? Her
leggings. The answer is barely. We do not shame women for what they are wearing, CJ. What are we doing? But no.
Skin tone leggings. All right, we got to stop that because it confuses me.
I thought she was in shorts.
I thought, was she not in like some like yellowish leggings?
Oh God, I have so many questions now. You're right.
Yeah, like
because that sweatshirt is not long enough to be a.
Well, it is if it's leggings. It's
no,
just,
I know. I thought it was just
more...
her. So I had assumed that she had on like really short jeans. This is just where my girl brain goes. Assume that she was in short jean shorts, sweatshirt, which wear what you want. It's fine. Do whatever you want. But I do think she is in nude colored leggings, which can we just stop making nude colored leggings?
It just
I have a pair. Me. Like, listen, they sit in my drawer. I have yet to wear them to a Grizzlies game. I'll put it that way, because I cannot bear the thought of somebody thinking that I don't have pants on. I can't do it. I just cannot do it. Well, we'll find out, because I guess this story is not going anywhere.
I can't wait for North Carolina to face some type of adversity, because she's going to be inserted in there somehow. Like just regular football adversity. North Carolina.
Like they start the season 0-6.
Well, I don't want to say 0-6 now. Hold on. Damn. I think if they start the season 2-3, we could get it. 1-4. Do we have the dates for their schedule yet?
Poggi has the chance to do the funniest thing possible.
If they lose to Biff, it's going down.
He got fired.
Oh, good, because he wasn't a good coach.
That's right. They play TCU, Charlotte, Richmond, UCF before starting their ACC schedule.
Okay. So if at any point...
If they lose to one of those 4 teams, they could lose to TCU.
If at any point they lose 4 games, 5 games on the season, if they're fighting for bowl eligibility at some point in time, she'll insert herself into a press conference, and I can't wait. I'm going to laugh.
Me too.
Be some good stuff. Bill Belichick, somebody who's been so controlling over everything from the football sides of things, and I think in his personal life also, as far as it pertains to the media, what gets out, what doesn't. So controlled, so organized in that thing. Dating this little bopper, and now she's ruining it. She is running the show.
Yeah.
Which, hey, shout out to her.
Hell of a week for CBS between the CBS Sunday Morning and did you see the 60 Minutes episode on Sunday where Scott Pelley addresses the camera at the end and like directly calls out Paramount and
about the lawsuit,
and because the executive producer of 60 Minutes stepped down because he felt like he no longer had
creative
the
control.
necessary like journalistic control to do fair and balanced journalism.
Yeah.
And I heard that, I haven't watched it yet, but second season of The Rehearsal with Nathan Fielder is out, and apparently he goes after Paramount too. And he calls Paramount like the Nazis. Anyway,
Well,
that's on my list to watch. What are you watching?
Keep it at Paramount. Don't take it to the real issue. I got a meeting. Which one are you most curious about? Daredevil, Survival of the Thickest, or the other one?
Did you finish Adolescence?
I did finish
And is
Adolescence.
it worth watching?
No.
Really?
No, I found it remarkably boring.
Okay.
And slow and anticlimactic, nothing happening. It doesn't even fully explain for me the whole incel movement type thing. I think you can watch episode 3 and get a feel for basically what everything is going on. Adolescence is about, for those of you who don't know, a kid ends up stabbing a classmate to death. The kid is a boy, the classmate is a girl, stabbed to death, and why it happened and the ramifications around all of that. There's you might like the third and the fourth episode. The fourth episode centers around the family and how that action sort of throws their lives into a different place. I don't want to say upheaval or turmoil because it's not that, but it is very clearly different, where the therapist will ask the kid, hey, or the assessor, ask the kid questions just to see if he's fit for a trial. The kid answers some of the questions, but the second she starts talking about his father, asking about his father, he starts blowing up. A kid who craves female attention and acceptance. The end of that episode 3 is pretty hard. As he's screaming things at the assessor, who's a woman, and then the way that episode 4 plays all the way out with parents second guessing themselves on dad's birthday about, hey, what did we do wrong? How could we have raised someone like this? It's not our fault, or it's not your fault as a mom, or your fault as the father for having a bit of a temper, not temper in that he's hitting anybody, but just a temper in that when he gets mad, he's mad. Yeah. It's not your fault as the mom for allowing him to kick it in his room and be on the computer. We didn't know this type of stuff was online at the time. They're in therapy, obviously, because of it. He's got a sister who's around also. All in all, man, I think that if they really had gotten to the heart of the incel movement, it might have been a bit better, but they sort of tiptoe around those types of conversations for reasons I'm not fully aware of.
Well, the opposite of the incel movement is Hacks, and Hacks is back for another season, and it's once again my favorite show on television. So I'll keep watching that. Last of Us Season 2 continues to be great. More of a setup episode coming off of the massive episode that we had
Are you watching
number 2.
Gemstones?
I'm so behind. Are you?
Yeah, I'm caught up on it. Yeah.
I'm fine with it. It could have ended.
It's just a goofy show.
I
just
know.
Mind-numbing entertainment.
I do love it at times. But it's not like I'm clamoring to go. I'll watch it all in spurts, and I'll finish it, of course. But it's not at the top of my priority list. Yeah. Which I love. end things on high notes. That's all I ask of TV shows. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. It'll be a Wednesday. We'll have more NBA playoff action to discuss. If they could please stop putting the games that I want to watch at 9 p.m. Central Time, I would greatly appreciate it. But that's what time Clippers Nuggets is on tonight. I also get Celtics Magic, Pistons Knicks, and Bucks Pacers. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about it all. We'll see you then. Bye.
There was something there with adolescents, and they just didn't dig deep enough for me.
Interesting.
They just left it sort of there. Whereas, what's the baby doe, baby bunny? What's his name?
Baby reindeer.
Baby reindeer